let's say if you don't approach for 6 months, what happens is you're not staying at the same level, you're actually going down. Hey bro, it's Nav here in Dubai, and I've been coaching my client here for almost 2.5 weeks now, and I wanted to share this piece of tip with you because it's so crucial when it comes to cold approaching, and that's momentum. Right now, my client he's been going on date after date. In the last 4 days, he's gone on like 6 dates, and he's actually on a date right now. And the reason all these dates are coming towards the end of the trip is because of momentum. He's got so much momentum behind him that his cold approaching skills has gone to God level. And this is one thing that you need to be aware of, is short-term momentum and long-term momentum, right? So short-term is like a daily momentum. So let's say if you're out for 3 hours and you've done, whatever, like 20 approaches, well, the 20th approach is going to go much better than the first approach because now you've got this momentum. They call it the flow state, right? And then you've got the long-term momentum, which my client has got now, and that's happened over, more than 2 weeks. So you can keep this momentum going and going, for months and years. It's kind of like a snowball effect. And what happens is, the more you approach, the more you get used to it. So it's actually easier to approach than not to approach. I remember I did 6 months every day of approaching, and it got to a point where it was actually easier for me to do the approach than not to do it, right? And that's what will happen because the more you do it, your brain, that croc brain, the animal brain, is kind of like, oh, this is completely normal. This is actually something that you should be doing all the time, right? Because that's the part of the brain that controls, the anxiety when you have approaches. So let's say if you don't approach for 6 months, what happens is you're not staying at the same level. You're actually going down, right? And that's, the momentum is working in the opposite way. So this is where a lot of guys, they get anxiety and they can't approach anymore. And it happened to me as well. Like I remember in the pandemic when I didn't approach for 3 months, prior to that I was approaching weekly for 5 years, and then I didn't approach for about 3 months because of the pandemic. And when I came back, I had a bit of anxiety. Now, the first time you go through it, like, in 2014, when I first went through it, that was next level. So obviously the second time you go through it, it's not going to be as crazy. You're going to be able to overcome it much easier than, the first time. It's kind of like muscle memory in the gym. So yeah, that's one thing to think about. So when you're out, even if it's a quick approach, even if it's like 5-second approach, make sure you do that because you are building momentum, even if it's not a long interaction. Because what happens is when you do an approach, you get this adrenaline, right? You get a bit of an adrenaline hit. And that's what gives you that momentum in a future approach.